As you know, Carl and myself run this podcast strictly out of our own pockets and try to do our best. And we've had a guy step up, a gentleman by the name of Doug Beers. Doug Beers has a company called Pro Gift Cards. It also funds our other sponsor, PGC Basketball Academy, with some other key corporate donations that Doug gives out. He's a very generous guy. We're very thankful for him. If you need bulk gift cards, and when I say bulk gift cards, I've been to his office, from Tim Hortons to Earl's to Canadian Tire. It's across the board, Walmart, you name it. All right. For your company or any organization, Pro Gift Cards can get them to you at a discount. If you mention a Hoops Journey podcast, you'll get a special discount as well. So whether you're running like a golf tournament or some sort of event, reach out and he'll take care of you. If you Google Pro Gift Cards, they're also found on the Walmart Canada website under gift cards as the exclusive supplier for Walmart Canada gift cards. Support his company. He's a great guy, a big hoop head, and has really looked out for our podcast. Once again, that's Pro Gift Cards. Mention a Hoops Journey, and you can find yourself a little bit of a deal. Thank you to Doug Beers. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to a Hoops Journey. Thrilled to have this gentleman on with us. I will not tell you how long ago we had JD Jackson on the show and recommended this man to chat with. But he's a busy man, and I have my own life as well, and juggling back and forth. And luckily, I rolled up to Toronto Raptors practice last week, and I said, "Oh, I know that guy. I've been harassing him for a long time to get on this podcast." So I cornered him and put him in a headlock. No, I didn't put him in a headlock, but he's a guy who's, honestly, if you give him a Google and you look him up on Wikipedia, there's too many things to mention. One thing to shout out is that we're both born in Penticton. So there you go. I'm a Penticton born man myself. This guy played at Northern Idaho and Idaho all over Europe, for 10, 12, 13 years professionally. Instantly seemed like he started coaching right away since then. Has been coach with the Raptors, has been head coach of Team Canada, has won multiple European championships, and most recently coming off, and I think anybody that followed the tournament saw the amazing run that Germany went on, and this guy was the head coach of that FIBA World Cup championship team and did an amazing job with them. We have none other than Mr. Gordie Herbert with us today. How are you, sir?
Doing great, thank you. I didn't know you were from Penticton, though.
I am. My dad is he's the old store manager at Woodward's. So he was in Calgary, and then my brother is 3 years older. We moved to Penticton. Yeah, I was born in Penticton, was there for almost up till grade 5, I want to say. And then we moved to the island and then to the mainland. So kind of followed his jobs. But yeah, always loved Penticton, and then had the opportunity when I was younger in teaching and then still in school at Brandon to go up with Kevin Hansen and do the old Penticton basketball camps, and with Nakoni and all those guys, and obviously have some connections. We've had, Jeff and JD, and I played for Mike Clark, was an assistant when I was at Langara. So, lots of connections to the community up there. Like I said, I ran into you. So how have you been enjoying your little vacation after a whirlwind, not just time, but that FIBA championship window is amazingly hard to get through. Congratulations on all your success, but how have you been enjoying some time to yourself and to just reconnect with family?
No, after we got back from the Philippines, I just went to Mallorca, actually, Spain, for 3 days and sat by the pool for 3 days and had a few cold ones. And, I had to stay around. We had some TV stuff to do in Germany. Mm-hmm. I spent a couple weeks in Finland, chopping some wood, and took my chainsaw and axe out to the wilderness. Nice. And being in Canada, I was at the Raptors camp for a week, and now I'm just up the Sunshine Coast with my mother, and next week back to Europe.
Nice. And I think anybody that followed along, obviously lots of interest on the Canadian side, but just tuning into the games and the really cool sort of visual of you sitting against the wall, soaking it in. Have you taken more time since then to kind of process that? and what that accomplishment is? Or are you a sort of what's next kind of guy?
I've told our players and our coaches that, we don't talk about the Olympics. Let's just cherish this moment. This is a life moment. Let's just let this sink in a little bit and kind of understand what we accomplished. I don't think we really know, really kind of understand what we've accomplished yet. I talked to Dennis Schroeder last week, and he said it really hasn't sunk in yet either. And I think when I get back to Germany in a week or so, I think it'll start to sink in then, because there's tremendous hype back in Germany over this team. I think, it's just, it was just an amazing run with an amazing group of players, coaching staff, support staff, federation. Just, a lot of people have reached out to me and just said, they'd never seen a team this connected for a long time. Or just, and I think that was kind of the best way to describe it. And, we had a team that was committed, but more than that, they cared about each other. And they enjoyed the situation. They enjoyed playing with each other. And I think that was the most enjoyable part for me. Obviously, the gold medal was nice, but even being around a group of players that really enjoyed the situation and cared about it.
Yeah, and I think for something as grueling as the run that you guys went on, having that care and connection with each other, in those tight moments makes such a difference. As a coach, maybe there's even times you can sort of lay off and let them figure it out because that they're connected individually and as a group, right? And that's awesome stuff. Let's get right into it. I have one question before we talk about you as a young person. The well-documented timeout with Dennis. And I from a coaching perspective, the thing that I loved, and I shared it on our podcast Instagram after, was the post game and Dennis mentioning something about how you apologized to him and how much that meant to him. Was that whole thing blown just out of proportion? Was it just the cameras in the moment? And again, I think, like you just talked about, Coach, sometimes those things happen, and maybe that, especially in social media world, things can get blown out way further than they need to be, and it might ruin a team, right? And I think it says a lot that it didn't become a distraction. It was kind of just the heat of the moment. We're all competitors. But I thought it was awesome. Like how it all played out, I thought was very, very cool and interesting to see.
No, first of all, I'm a big believer in adversity. I think you have to go through things. It's not really the adversity I wanted at that time. It was about 7 or 8 minutes in the game, and we were down by 14 or 15 points, and we were just playing terrible as a team. It's probably the worst we played. And Dennis and Daniel Tice started yelling at each other on the bench, and we had to change some stuff. How we're going to guard Luka, different things. We had to change a couple things. Our post defense we had to change, and I just got a little frustrated that we couldn't sit down, and we only have 1 minute in FIBA, and we couldn't get things accomplished. And I apologized to Dennis the other day. I put my hand on his shoulder and I tried to pull him to sit down, and I think he took that the wrong way. I didn't mean anything bad by it, but I was just trying to get everybody settled down that we could move on. But I think that was a defining moment for us. Down 15, we win by 29. Against a top 7 team in the world, and with one of the best, if not the best, FIBA player in the world.
Sure.
So I think that showed a lot of character. That showed what kind of team we were, and I think we moved on pretty well. I mean, Dennis came back and played outstanding the rest of the game. Same with Daniel Tice, and I thought we moved on from it pretty well, put it behind us, and there are those moments. Sometimes you don't like them to be, in a game situation. But I'll tell you what, our practices were super competitive. We played 5-on-5 even before games. Franz Wagner on one team, Dennis Schroeder on the other team. You have your two best players who are two great competitors, and we had some great moments in practice. And then at the end of practice, Dennis would bring us together and say, "Hey, we competed really well. Hey, but we're family. Now we're family again." So I think that says a lot about what kind of team we were.
Yeah, and I don't know if you sense it too. Just that I see sometimes at the high school level, guys we coach and things, just that sort of, not a fear, but just that, like it doesn't matter. Once we're in the lines here, a little bit of an older school mentality, we're going after each other, right? The well-documented dream team practices, any elite level team, doesn't matter what level it is, what happens in practice when guys are really willing to go after each other makes such a difference in the long run. And it sounds like you guys had that, which is amazing. And thanks for sharing all that. Cause I was driving in this morning thinking I'd like to chat about it, because I thought from an outside perspective, it was interesting. And I thought there were some powerful moments in the locker room after win, lose, or draw. It just seemed like everybody was on the same page and able to move on, which again speaks to your leadership and I think the team and their dynamic. So awesome.
Yeah, no, I think, I have a great relationship with Dennis. When I got the job 2 years ago, the first thing I did was drive to Braunschweig, and I sat down with him and talked, and, he talked, I listened more or less, but it was about 3 or 4 hours. And, because you heard a lot of stuff about him and you hear a lot about negative stuff about different people. But I came out of that meeting very positive. Here was a kid who really cared about his country. He wanted to represent his country, loved his country. So I came out of there with a great feeling. And, one of the biggest things, one of the best things I did was, it was one of the hardest things I had to do. I cut our captain. And I made Dennis the captain, and and it empowered him. He really took that right to heart, and I think that was the first thing of really the making of this team.
Mm-hmm. And it's been documented so much. I think too, he's going to have. I think the work that he's put in and the success with the FIBA, I think he's going to carry over to a great year for him with the Raptors. And he's had some ups and downs. People always want to go back to that contract stuff, and he should have taken that. And I think that's probably hard and taxing. But when you can have success in the FIBA window, I think he's going to really have a good year with the Raptors. And I think that momentum will carry through.
No, he's very excited to go there. I mean, we talked the day he signed, and he has a really good relationship with Darko. Mm-hmm. And it was just, I think it was win-win for both sides.
Yeah.
And, Dennis, I think he still has stuff to prove on the NBA floor.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think one thing, it's really good to get a real good player who's highly motivated. And, I see that in him now.
That's awesome.
And his family is really excited to go to Canada. A lot of people don't realize about Dennis. He's a great family guy. He's got 3 kids, a wife. They traveled with us the whole summer. He takes care of them. Mm-hmm. Everybody sees the other stuff of different people, and Dennis is a pretty unique individual.
Mm-hmm. I love it. That's awesome. Mm-hmm. Thanks for sharing all that. Well, let's get into it. It's your episode. All right. You've got decades and decades of basketball history and knowledge. Penticton, BC, born, sort of raised there. Why? Talk about yourself as a young guy, and were you into other sports, and why did basketball become the one that was for you?
No, growing up, I actually played everything, and back then we played different things depending on what the season was. I played hockey, volleyball, baseball, basketball, ran track and field. I skied during the wintertime in the Nancy Green program. I water skied in the summertime. I did everything. One of my biggest regrets, if you could call it that, is I gave up all that stuff to concentrate on basketball when I was about 15, because I was about 6'6" back then. And actually, I was a better hockey player than basketball player. And
even at that height?
Yeah, I thought so. And And I mean, hockey was my love, and it still is. It still is my favorite sport.
Who's your team?
Vancouver. Getting pretty excited. They're starting the season tonight, and
they are. Yeah.
In Europe, I sometimes get up at 4:00 in the morning and watch their games.
Oh,
and so
sick bugger.
Yeah, I know. I live and die with them. Last year was a tough year with, if I can get off the topic a little bit, with all that stuff going on.
Yeah.
Around management and coach, and I felt really bad for coach, being a coach myself. Seeing a guy go through that. So I truly believe you support the coach 100% or you fire him. And in the public.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff. So I played all those sports when I was younger. When I went to Europe, I actually went out in the outdoor rinks and played hockey a lot with kids.
Nice.
Especially in Finland, because the Finns were pretty good at hockey. And so I had a really good time playing hockey on the outdoor rinks during the wintertime. And so actually, when I took over the German national team, was probably the first time I ever watched more basketball than hockey during the season.
Really?
Yeah. Hockey, I can sit back and enjoy. Basketball, I always get into analyzing it and getting this way and that way, and
I still think the Stanley Cup's probably it might be the toughest championship, I think, for the North American kind of sports to win. Just the grind those guys have to go through, it's like every second day. There's no, the NBA can get a little fluffy depending on the timing of games. They get 3 days off or whatever, and those NHL guys, man, they're a whole different sort of animal. It's pretty intense.
No, it's very intense. And you know what I miss the most? Is the Olympic hockey.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, that's the best hockey in the world right there. I mean, you got Canada, United States, Sweden, Finland, Czech. I mean, it's just Russia when they were in.
Yep.
Just unbelievable hockey. And I think the world is really missing that right now. And I know these players, McDavid and these guys, these guys deserve to play in this. And so really disappointed in Gary Bettman, if I can say that. I don't know if that was his decision, but I know the players were really disappointed.
Yeah, no, I agree. It is. And obviously having it here in Vancouver was super special too, right? And so it's just I think, you get the best players in the world playing for their countries. How can you beat that, really, right?
Yeah, nothing like it. And I think, next summer with the Olympics is going to be very similar.
Yeah.
I think the U.S. will have a different team. France will have a little bit different, maybe Canada.
Yeah.
It's going to be a great basketball spectacle.
Yeah, agree.
Yeah.
And so other than being 6'6" at 15, what was it about basketball? Was there a coach in the neighborhood? Was there a group of guys? I mean, a smaller community like Penticton, kind of, you could see why hockey would be a little bit more popular, but why that choice and decision to play hoops?
My mother was a basketball player, and we had a hoop out in our yard, and my mother had a chance to play for the Canadian team when she was growing up in university, but she married my father. She says the biggest mistake she ever made. But she got me into we used to go out and play horse together and shoot, and she taught me how to shoot the ball a little bit properly and better. And
nice.
So my mother was a really good athlete in a lot of different things, and so she taught me a lot about basketball and got me going. And I think she got a little bit tired of getting me up at 5:30 in the morning and driving me into town for hockey practice too.
Yeah, I can't blame her there. It is one of the grinds about hockey is for parents. It's early mornings. Yeah. That's awesome. And what was the scene like at that time? I mean, we're talking kind of, late 70s sort of. What was the basketball like up there? What was your team like once you played in high school? And when did you know that, hey, I think this is something I want to pursue at the post-secondary level as well?
Yeah, when I played in junior high, we went to the finals of the BCs. We came second. Grade 11, we went to the BCs. Grade 12, we did not. Only one team from the Okanagan went that year. Big disappointment. Growing up, I had two things in my mind. One, to go to college in the States.
Yeah.
And two, to play for the Canadian national team.
Wow.
And, those are the two things I really wanted. And back then, it was huge to play for the national team. It was a dream of everybody. Things have changed a little bit. But those are the two things I really wanted to do. And, I really got fortunate going to University of Idaho. I had to go the junior college route to get there.
Yep.
And, but when I was at University of Idaho, we were fourth in the nation my senior year. We beat 4 Pac-10 teams on the road by 20 points or more. We just had, and that team back then, we weren't the most talented team, but we were a team. And it reminded me a lot of the German team. We were just a team that really functioned well on the floor, sacrificed, cared about each other. So that was a pretty neat experience back then.
Yeah.
People sleeping outside when we played in the tournaments near the end of the year to get tickets. And then after that, I went to Europe. Played in Finland and Belgium. Met my wife. Ended up doing my master's degree in Finland. 2 boys. And and so I've lived most of my life in Europe.
Yeah.
I've kind of home bases in Finland, but haven't really lived in Finland since 1999, as I've coached in Europe most of the time.
Right. What was the recruiting process in the late 70s? How does someone in northern Idaho find out about a guy who's playing hoops in Penticton, BC, in that time? Did you kind of have to make phone calls, or was it connections through connections?
I went to a basketball camp in Gonzaga, and I got MVP of the camp after my grade 11 year, and one of the coaches there recommended me to the coach at North Idaho, and that's where it started from. And I was UW and a couple others. D1 schools were interested, but at the end of the day, I never got a scholarship offer, so I went the JC route. Yeah. Back then, in the late 70s, you got letters in the mail from the schools.
Yeah,
that's what we got, and so it was good. I mean, I went to North Idaho for 2 years. Had a real good experience, real good coach. And then
correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't the Idaho JUCO League was quite solid for a long time, I believe. Was it not? Like, I feel like we had, was it Roy Kruzwick from Kelowna? He might have gone to Northern Idaho. But I think, there was a time, I mean, I'm a 95 grad. There was a bunch of guys from my year and my grade 11 year that went the JUCO route too. Dave Morgan was my teammate. He went to Utah. He went to JUCO in Utah and then transferred to Reno, Nevada, right? Like it was a common thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Greg Wiltshire went to North Idaho.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Then he went to Oregon State. The big team in our league was Southern Idaho.
Okay.
And they had a few guys go to the NBA out of that program.
Okay.
So with that JUCO league was really good at that time. And most of our players went to D1 schools. And so I was fortunate to go with Coach Munson at University of Idaho. And, that was just a great experience. And that, that was my dream, to play Division I basketball in the States. And then, the Canadian national team.
In case you didn't know, our second sponsor, ATO Basketball, aka ATO B-Ball, located directly at the Langley Event Center in British Columbia. This place has everything you need. I swear, if you walk in and you're a hoop head, there's nothing you won't be able to find. Sale items, Jordan, Adidas, Puma, you name it. The brands are all there. Shoes, jerseys, retro, current, Vancouver Bandits. You can even get every basketball you name. Shout out to our boy Jeff at ATO Ball for willing to be a sponsor to us. Go check them out. Check the store, mention us, and who knows, you might find yourself lucky. Thanks to ATO Ball. Was there ever an aha moment for you there? Like, what was the level like? Obviously, I'm assuming, you're playing against the best guys in the province growing up, high school. You're probably having some pretty good success, dominating some games if you're getting looks through American schools. But what were some of do you recall what were some of the major differences making that jump? Was it the intensity of practices? Was it just the level that there were 9-10 other really good players there? Or were you just like, nah, this is a piece of cake. I'm all good.
Back then the compete level was so much better than what I was used to in Canada.
Yeah.
When I was playing in Penn High in grade 11, we went and played a team in the States in Wenatchee or someplace, and we had better players, but we ended up losing by 40. Just their compete level and their get after it was much different than I was used to.
Yeah.
Growing up in Canada.
Yeah, which is why probably that that JUCO route is good, because it's you're still going to get some minutes, but you're still seeing that compete level, and then you get your final years kind of Division I. When did you realize, or you had earmarked the national team, but professionally, how did that work for you? Again, and no offense, but it's we're in a pre-internet era. Like, how does a guy get himself overseas and build a career like you did for yourself as a player?
Yeah, I had an agent, and he was looking at different things: Sweden, Finland, Belgium. And, the Finnish team came and offered me a contract in September, and I took it. And it was, it was pretty eye-opening. We had 2 TV channels in Finland. They went off at 9:30 at night. Winters were long and cold and dark.
What do you mean they went off? Like there was no more programs after 9:30?
No more programs.
Is that a government thing, or just?
Yeah, there were government TV. There were government channels and 2 TV programs. And I think Monday night you got a movie. That was about it. And
that's why you know how to chop a good set of wood, because you had to get a lot of fires going to make the nights go by. Hey.
Oh, it was pretty tough. I mean, my second year in Finland, it was minus 35. And, you had trouble going outside. I actually played with one of the foreigners later on in Turku, and it was so cold one time we go to practice. He would leave his car running the whole practice outside just for it would be warm when he got out. And
that was like my first year when I went to Brandon. And I'm walking on campus, and I'm like, why are all these plugs in the parking stalls? Right. And I'm like, oh, yeah. They're like, people are just looking at me like, you dumbass. Like, so your engine doesn't freeze. And I'm like, oh, that's what I'm in for. Okay. And then, then it was like mid-October and snowing and windy and cold already. I was like, oh, this is a different level of cold. Yeah. So then how does one get through that? I mean, you seem like, to me, just kind of like a little bit more of an introverted, kind of quiet guy, family-oriented guy. How do you make that jump from a place like Penticton over to Finland, and how do you work through that, playing professional basketball in a time where, what you got practice and a workout, if it's not game day or you're not on the road, getting through those days, how did you manage the ability to do that? I mean, you said you were in school too, but what were some of the tools that you dug into to get through those times?
No, I think my goal was still play for the Canadian national team, and it was a benefit to play somewhere during the season if you wanted to play in the summertime. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to get better. And what did I do?
You're good.
Yeah, good. And I really wanted to play. And there was a time after my first year, I was thinking about going back to law school at University of Idaho. Mm-hmm. But I ended up not going back. I ended up meeting my wife, and I just wanted to play as long as I could play, and I ended up doing my master's degree at the same time up in University of Jyväskylä in sports psychology, and
oh, wow, nice.
Yeah, so it all kind of worked out, and
yep. And if you're going to describe your game, what was it like? What was your game like? And come on, don't be bashful here. Don't be bashful. Come on, give us the goods.
Good basketball IQ, a shooter who didn't play much defense.
Okay, you didn't hold back. That's good. All right.
No, and I don't know.
Shoot it before you turn it over. Shoot it before you turn it over, right? Yeah.
Well, my best friend, Jerry Bestlink, we played together. He's Canadian, played for the Canadian national team too. He plays in Finland. He used to bug me. He says the only time I passed the ball to him was in warm-ups. So
you weren't going to get it back. That's why. Yeah.
But I had a really good experience playing back then. There was only 1 or 2 foreigners per team, depending on the room. So, but it was a great experience.
And early on, you get the call from Canada. What was that like? You know, it's obviously you've mentioned it a couple of times. You had some things earmarked. How did that feel?
No, I think my first, I played for the junior national team.
Oh, you did?
I was the leading scorer on that team. And then after my second
year.
Did
that count for you? Did junior national count? Or was it you wanted the senior men's team was your goal?
Senior men's team. I just, and senior men's team, I went to, I think right after my second year at junior college. And it was an eye-opener for me. I think there was 42 players there. I think I was the first or second player cut. And, that's where, I'm a big believer in adversity, failure, not giving up. Adversity tells you a lot about the people you're working with. And that's where it kind of started for me. I never gave up. I just, I worked harder, and that gave me a chance to see what I needed to do to get there. I first of all made the team in 1982, but I was only on the first trip to, I think it was Taiwan. I didn't go to the Worlds. I think Leo Routens came in because that was when he could play for the first time as a pro.
Okay.
And in 83 was really my first full year on the national team. We won the Universiade in Edmonton. 84, we were fourth in LA. 86, we were, I think, 6th at the Worlds in Spain. So it was a great experience for me. I mean, playing for Coach Donahue was a really life experience. We had Cal Balderall, was a sports psychologist, which I learned a lot from. I actually think his son was GM of the Buffalo Sabres, and his daughter is on Hockey Night in Canada, I think.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. So
now, were you doing your master's at this time, or did you do it after?
No, I did it after. I did my master's in late 1980s, early 91.
And was that when you had that sports psychologist, was that you're like, oh, this seems kind of cool? Or had you already had those thoughts in your mind and just learned a lot from that person?
No, I didn't have those thoughts then. Yeah. I just had a real good experience. I mean, Coach Donahue was a little bit like a sports psychologist too, with life, and then Cal Balderall was great, and I just really got into it. I used it a lot, what I learned, and and then it took me about 3 years to do my master's degree, and I've even learned more now dealing with Peter Jensen. He works with Basketball Canada. He's been in about 5 or 6 different Olympics with different Canadian teams. So working with him when I was with Basketball Canada was outstanding also.
Yeah, I think we were a little bit late to it, but it is such an important, I think even now, today's generation working with, 16, 17-year-olds, that's what I'm working with. And just sort of the sports psychology side of it is so huge. And you're working with the pros of the pros and you're still doing it right. I think it's such an overlooked thing, or can be. I think sometimes coaches can get caught up in system or X's and O's, as opposed to, like you've alluded to many times, a team that's bonded, united, understands their roles, which all, go into that kind of psychology side of it. So that kind of tells me that as you're playing with that sports psychology in the back of your mind, when are you starting to view yourself as a coach as well? Like you said you enjoyed the game and understood the game. So maybe that coaching brain was always there. When did you know that, being on the sidelines with the clipboard would be something that you'd be interested in?
Yeah, I started thinking about it in the 1990s early. I had some knee issues, and I missed a lot of games. I did not have one full season for 2 or 3 in a row. And right then, I thought about coaching, and I actually jumped right from a player to being a head coach on the team that
I was wondering, because I was reading about you, and I'm like, there's no time in between here. Like, it goes from 1 year to so that's crazy. Yeah.
So no, and my first
Did you
year
have to coach some of the guys that you played with?
Yeah, I had to coach them. And my first year, we went to the finals when I was coaching, and I was a young coach who thought he knew everything. And
I was going to say, you found out how easy it was, right? Yeah.
No, I actually found out I knew nothing. And it was, I think a lot of us young coaches go into it and we think we know everything, being a former player. We get on the other side, it's completely different. And I've had a lot of players who I coached come back to me and say, who started coaching, and they've said, "Hey, Coach, we had no idea."
And help me, please.
Yes. Yeah.
Who were your resources, and who was your professional development back then? I mean, obviously, you get to a point, you're playing in Europe, you've been with the national team. Are you attending clinics? Is it phone calls with friends? How are you continuing to grow as a coach, kind of in the mid to late 90s and figuring things out?
I went to a lot of clinics. I bought some tapes. I tried to learn on the fly. I don't think you're ever ready for the next step. You got to kind of dive in and go. Ken Shields was a huge influence for me. Also a very good friend. He came with me 3 times. He came to Frankfurt. He came to me with Greece when I coached in Greece, and he came when I coached the Georgian national team.
Wow.
He lived with me at different times, and we spent anywhere from 3 weeks to 2 months together.
Wow.
And he was a huge influence, and one of the best basketball minds I've ever run across, and unbelievable basketball mind. He still texts me at the Worlds now and gives me his thoughts, and the text messages take me about 5 minutes to read, but it's great stuff. And it's just outstanding stuff. And I would never be where I am today without his influence and his help.
Love that. I what are we? We're like 118 episodes in, and I can't tell you how many people have referenced him, whether they worked with him like you and, had him on their bench, or, he started those clinics at UVic back in the day where coaches would come over and they stay in residence and they'd go out and drink beer and socialize and talk basketball for like a whole weekend or week at times. Right. And I think in terms of he was just ahead of his time and still is. And I think for someone that's, and even yourself, like, just still, I think it says a lot to continue to have that growth mindset, right? You get to a certain point, it's like the Milwaukee Bucks, the national team, like you name it, you've done everything in basketball, but you're still willing to, he was going to come to our clinic here and do a session last year, but, Kathy just was ill. And so he couldn't make it, but like just willing to do that just for the love of the game. There's only so many people, I think, globally that have been someone like Ken Shields. I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
Absolutely. Just even a better person, outstanding coach, even better person. I can't say enough how he's helped me throughout the years, and get on calls, get on text messages, even now. And, he could go down as, for me, as the greatest basketball mind in Canada, in my opinion. Dave Smart's had a great run, also a good friend. So completely different philosophies, and but that's what makes the game great. And Canada basketball in Canada has been very lucky. First of all, they had Ken Shields, and then they had Dave Smart. And no, I just Ken's been great to me, and like I said, I would never be where I am today without him.
I think to sort of that makes me think of, we're in some ways losing the essence of mentorship, coaching mentorship, right? Whether younger people think they can figure it out because there's YouTube and everything, or just, I always telling people I'm open, come to my practice, or I'll come to your practice, or whatever. And you're talking about someone who's become a friend, a dear friend to you, but also was a mentor and willing to help you grow in your own craft. And I don't know how we get back to that, especially for younger coaches. But I think it's something that's vital for coaches to grow.
Absolutely. I mean, one of the best things with this job for me right now, being a national team coach, I've got to go around and watch other coaches coach, talk with them, learn. And I think as a coach right nowadays, I'm not sure about other coaches, but I've recreated myself.
Yeah.
Every 2, 3, 4 years. Right now, I do nothing what I did 5 years ago.
Really?
I've recreated myself. The game changes. You learn. You move. You make changes. I have basically the same philosophy on what I do and how I do stuff.
Sure.
But I've changed things. And maybe it's coaching the national team is much different than coaching a professional team, club team. But I think every 3 to 5 years you recreate yourself.
I love it. I think that, we're talking in basketball terms, but I wish more people had that approach just with life in general, right? And sort of, I think of my, God bless my dad. I love him. He's still around, but sort of just getting up 9 to 5, come home, put your feet up, take us to sports, go to bed, get up 9 to 5, and just sort of like, I wonder if he could go back, or would he try to find different ways to be a better store manager, or you know what I mean? And I think you're saying something that's so important, because not only that, Coach, it keeps you young too, right? Keeps you fresh. You may not understand what the guys are saying to each other on the bus and how they're talking, and what Snapchat is or whatever, but understanding that they're not going to respond to you and you're coaching 10 years ago because the game's completely changed. It seems like a simple concept, but I really don't know if people really grasp that, to be totally honest. Yeah.
No, relationship building is so important today. With the national team, I really went out for 3 things. Develop relationships. 1, I met with personally, face-to-face with 35 to 40 German players my first year. 2, get your best players committed to play. And 3, make sure they show up in shape. And, you do those 3 things, I think you have a chance to be pretty good. But I think getting back, I think as a coach, you have to recreate yourself. The game changes. You got to keep learning. If you don't keep learning, you're going to fall off the bus.
There you go. It's true.
Very true.
And for those that didn't hear it clearly, if just in case, Coach said face-to-face meetings. He went out of his way to mention face-to-face, not via text, not via email, not FaceTime, but talking with people, picking up on their body language, being there physically in the room, I think is another thing that is so, so important, and vital to relationship building and things like that. Yeah, I love it.
No, I just wanted to really develop trust and respect with the players, and to a certain extent, I can be brutally honest. I have a little bit different personality as a coach than I do as a person.
Sure.
So I'm quite different, but I ask players, "Can I be honest with you?" And I'm going to be brutally honest with you. But I think a huge thing, is communication. I communicate a lot with our 2 captains throughout the year. I communicate with Daniel Tice different times. I just want to hear what they have to say. It's a little bit different than coaching a professional team. But
how so?
I just think with a professional team, I'm not going to go around and ask different things. And, I just think with these guys, they're committing, they're making a sacrifice during the summertime. They're giving up their summers. They're away from their families for extended period of time. I want them involved. At the end of the day, I'm going to make the final decision. But I'll talk to our captains.
Yeah.
I'll get their voice. I'll get their opinions. I talk a lot with our coaches. I mean, our coaches meetings this year in the World Cup were a lot longer than our practices. Sometimes they went 2 to 3 hours. And, we go in and we have the mentality, say, hey, we can agree to disagree. And here we go. And, we want an open floor. I don't want people afraid not to say their opinions.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, too, if there's trust in a relationship there, they'll share that with the understanding that you being the head coach, you may make the final choice and it may not be that, but they at least feel comfortable in that room to express that, which I think is the key, right? As opposed to everybody just saying sort of, yes, coach. Okay, coach. What do you need, coach? You want blue Gatorade or water today, coach? I think that's a true culture.
No, and I go into a coach's meeting. I kind of have an idea what I'm going to do, and I come out of those meetings a lot of times with a wholly different plan.
Oh yeah,
just because we've discussed stuff, we've put stuff forward, and as I tell our coaching staff, we want our players to be a team, but we have to show them what team is. And if we're not a team, how can we expect our players to be a team? We have to show what a team is by our communication, by our actions out in the open. And to me, that's really important, I thought.
Absolutely. Love it. One question, we'll do some fun ones and then we'll get you on your way. Just if you were to give advice to a young coach out there, doesn't matter what level they're, grassroots, whatever, what would be something you think about your own experience and your time as a coach and still learning and growing like you've talked about? Is there something that you would give to them or tell them as a takeaway?
If I could say one thing, it would be, hey, find a mentor that you trust, have them come by practice, have them come by games. Practice more important than games, in my opinion, and watch and get some input. Get somebody that's not there every day. Second thing would be go watch as many practices as you can from coaches working.
Yeah.
And third thing is understand we don't know everything. You need to develop yourself. It's like Peter Jensen has these ignite the 3 factors. And the third factor is your self-development. Okay? Focus on getting better as a person, as a coach, as a leader, and work on that.
Love it. Absolutely love it. So you said practice more important than games. From a guy who's been over in Europe for just a long period of time, what's your thoughts on sort of the swing of AAU ball? I mean, I'm assuming you're seeing more of the club system where kids are playing at a club level, at a younger age, and committed to that club. Are we playing too many games? What are your thoughts and takes on all that?
Yeah, I'm really out of the loop with the AAU. I think the big advantage we have in Europe is with our national teams. Our players grow up playing FIBA, then they go to the NBA, then they come back, and it's easy to get back into the FIBA mix. The Canadians and Americans grow up playing AAU, NBA, then into FIBA. Completely different.
Yeah.
I just think we spend a lot of time on skill development. When I coached in the club teams, when we were practicing twice a day, we never had 2 team practices a day. We had 3 or 4 or 5 different segments in the morning, individual practice. 45 minutes, 30 minutes in the weight room, come back in the evening, we'd have a team practice. So we really tried to be specific with individuals and really improve our individuals. And I found out with individual training, you can be much more positive, you can create, and players can be much more successful in individual practice than a team practice. And that builds confidence. And also you develop a better relationship with players, individual practice, because it's not negative, it's more positive. And so I think in Europe we do tremendous amount of skill development.
What can we say about the people at Parkside, especially our guy Sam Payne? a huge supporter of basketball in our community. The gentleman does many things behind the scenes that people don't know about. And one of those is supporting our podcast from literally day one. Sam reached out to us and said, hey, I like what you're doing. How do we get involved? And what you can do is find them at any local government store or come down to the brewery, sit on the patio, sit in the back, listen to the music, come for music trivia night, whatever it is. The wide variety of beer that they offer is second to none. And Port Moody and the Brewers Row is a great place to be. We are so appreciative of Parkside Brewery, we can't even say it in enough words. Head down. We hope to see you Parkside. And if you can't, find a way to support because they do a lot for us. Cheers. So true. I've never thought of that analogy of, because you just think, oh, an individual workout's an individual. But yeah, they are developing more confidence because it's just them and maybe you feeding them the ball, giving them some feedback. But maybe they hit 2, 3, 4, 5 in a row. Whereas in practice, depending on their role, you know, with the team, like you get scrimmage out and they might get a shot up, or maybe they go 0 for 2 and that's all they saw, right? Like that's such a very, very good point. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think. Yeah.
Have you had any chance to chat with Dirk? I love Dirk.
Yeah, I mean, I saw Dirk in Japan, and he texted me afterwards. And last year when I went to the States, I went to had a coffee with him in Dallas, and
nice.
You know, I coached in Würzburg one year just after he left for the NBA.
Okay.
And so I got to know Dirk's parents pretty well. You know, Dirk's a complete reflection of his parents, just great people, normal guy, just a tremendous human being. And so
I love it. He seems like it.
Yeah, I mean, he set the table for us. I mean, he's just an icon in Germany. Mm-hmm. You really can't go back there very much because
it's insane.
Insane. I mean, he lives most of the time in Sweden, up in middle Sweden. Nobody knows who he is, and so so
that's cool.
It's pretty neat. We had Dirk, and now Dennis has kind of craved his own way a little bit after this World Cup, I think, which is pretty neat too.
Absolutely. Yeah. Now how you're smiling describing Dirk says it all. All right, let's do some fun questions. We'll get on your way, okay?
Okay.
I can see the sun shining in the background. It's probably a nice walk in your future here. And you got to enjoy, if it's not raining this time of year in BC, you got to get out there and enjoy it. All right, we're going to jump around here. Are you books or movies, if you had a choice?
Books or movies.
50-50?
When I'm by myself, more books.
Yeah.
I read novels sometimes just when I'm coaching because it takes my mind away and they're an easy read.
Sure.
And it's not stressful.
Yeah.
So I always read novels before a game or easy reading stuff.
Yeah.
I like to watch movies too. More of the movies from early 2000 as opposed to these new ones.
Okay, what do we got? Come on. I like where you're going with this. What are some classics for you?
Oh, I like the old movies. I mean, 1990s, 2000s.
Boy.
And more about the actors and actresses at that time, watching them. Yeah.
And their skill set?
Yeah,
I agree.
I just think they're really good movies. I think I'm not a big fan of today's movies or today's music.
Yeah. I love it. We'll get into that too. Is there a top of your head and you can say move on. Is there a sports psychology book that you would recommend to someone out there or something that has stuck with you?
Absolutely. Ignite the Third Factor by Peter Jensen. Best book I've ever read. I've read it 3-4 times. I have it with me right now downstairs. I mean, I carry it wherever I go. I mean, Peter sends me different copies because I have to. I think my kid's a basketball coach in Germany, and I think he's stolen a couple of my copies. And outstanding book. I really recommend it. Easy read, hits the points.
There we go. I've got it in my cart on Amazon. I'll buy it after. I'll buy it after the episode. And I love the fact that you said hits the points and easy read. That's like heaven for me. I have trouble with books, but if it's something I can connect to and they kind of just lay it out and don't go, down the squiggly road to get to their point, I can usually get through it and take something away.
Yeah, some of those sports psychology books are too difficult to read. I mean, you can't. This one is straight to the point and easy read and great read.
Nice. Okay. So it is movie night at your house, and you're feeling a little bit munchy. Now, I don't know. I don't know if you're in Canada or if you're in Finland. I don't know where you are. What's the bag of chips that you're grabbing? Is there a bag of chips? I mean, you look like you're still in pretty good shape, keeping yourself up. But if you were to kind of have the weakness, what are you going to?
First of all, I'd go to I have 2 wooden saunas at my summer home. I'd go to the wooden sauna. I have an ice saw and an axe. I make a hole in the ice. I go to the wooden sauna, and then I go out in the ice and I go for a dip in the ice.
There you go.
Then I come back and watch a movie. Maybe a couple beers with some salted nuts, and chips would be salt and vinegar.
Salt and vinegar. Okay. All right.
Old times.
Yeah. Classic. Sure. You're a cold plunger, hey?
Yeah. No, I do it a lot. And
nice.
I just went swimming in the ocean up here in the Sunshine Coast too.
Yeah, it's beautiful, right?
Yeah, unbelievable. Yeah. I just like the salt water too.
Yeah, it feels good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Who have been some of the most important people in your life?
Basketball wise, without a doubt, Ken Shields. Psychologically wise, without a doubt, Peter Jensen. Generally, my family, my kids, parents, kids. I mean, I've learned a lot from my kids, and So,
how does it feel to have a kid who's still involved in the game and coaching? What's that like?
It's pretty neat. One of the biggest experiences I had was when he was doing his internship. I was coaching in Frankfurt, and my assistant coach is also my assistant coach with the national team. Took him under his wing and really taught him, helped him, and just seeing him grow in that situation was pretty neat.
Yeah.
He was supposed to be on our staff this summer, but his club team in Germany would not let him. But, he speaks in front of the team. He's the one coach who will speak in front of the team during the windows and do the personnel. And
that's cool.
So it's pretty neat to watch him grow.
Yeah, that's pretty fun. Does he still listen to you?
Sometimes he asks me questions, and
so that's a no. He doesn't listen to him. Yeah, there we go.
They listen a little bit on basketball. They don't listen. They don't listen to me. I've been divorced 3 times, but
there you go.
I asked Mike. They start talking about stuff, and both my sons say, "Dad, don't take this personally, but you'd be the last person we ask."
And you're like, yeah, who would ever take that personally? Yeah, thanks. So thanks a lot. All right, you're at you've got the best seat in the house. So whatever musical place you want, could be a certain venue you've been to or always wanted to go to. Artists can be dead or alive, doesn't matter. What concert are you going to? Or maybe a couple. Who would you go see?
Easy one, Coldplay.
Oh, they were just here.
Yeah, I can't get it. They were in Germany. Tickets sold out in 5 minutes.
Oh, I remember last year, kids in my PE class were begging me, Mr. Mitchell, can I please just be on my phone this block? I'm in the queue. I'm like the 9,000th person. I'm like, yeah, you're not getting Coldplay tickets. But they look like they put on a show.
Great show. I mean, I saw the video when they're in Brazil. It's just not only the songs, like you said, it's a great show.
Yeah.
And they put on a real show, and they're moving around, and they get everybody involved. And I'm also, I like Journey, Foreigner, Whitesnake, CCR.
Ooh.
So
love it.
So I listen to a lot of that stuff, and I was trying to get Dennis Schroeder into a little bit of that, but he actually liked Coldplay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Now listen. You're not a name dropper, and that's not your style. But your Rolodex, your cell phone's got some numbers. There's got to be someone out there who can get you a Coldplay ticket. Come on, man. Like like the FIBA champ does not need to be on Ticketmaster at 7 a.m. waiting in the queue. Like there's a text or someone out. If someone listens to this episode, come on, let's get Coach to Coldplay. This is ridiculous.
Yeah, they actually come to Helsinki next summer, and it's sold out in 3 minutes. And they're doing the second concert. It's gone.
Yeah.
I mean, I just think.
And then you can play triple the price after that.
It's just like you said. It's a great show.
Yeah,
I think it's. I went to Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Unreal. They're so good.
It was pretty good too.
Yeah. I saw them. They just they didn't stop. They didn't say. I feel like Flea at one time just said, "What's up, Vancouver?" and that was it. They just jammed. Yeah. For like an hour and a bit and walked off. I was like, okay, that's how you do it. They kicked ass. Yeah.
Yeah. It was pretty cool there.
Yeah. Nice. Okay. So I'll go, you can take this however you want. Let's say, okay, you can either be a player. So it's you and 4 others, or you're a coach, you're coaching and it's 5 others. They could be your all-time favorite players that you loved growing up. They could be guys that you've coached. I know coaches have a real hard time with this stuff because they never want to leave anyone out, but I'll let you take it to however angle you want to take it.
If I had to do it right now, I would take our starters from the German national team.
Oh, that's too easy.
Schroeder, Oakes, Wagner, Volkman, and Tice. Now, if I have to go back to the 1980s, I'm taking Eli Pasquale.
Let's go.
Taking Jay Triano.
Okay.
I'm taking Brian Kellerman, who I played with at University of Idaho.
Right.
Taking Gerald Kaz.
Yes.
And I'll take Greg Wiltshire.
Ooh.
And then I'll have Howard Kelsey as my 6th man coming in. And that would be my group right there back then.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. So, I can see you guys on Kits Beach running game for a couple hours, not losing.
No, but if we were on Kits Beach, Howard would be my first pick.
Because he's the Kits Beach legend.
He's the Kits Beach legend. He knows how to shoot. He knows how to shoot with the wind or without the wind or crosswind. Or he's the best. He's the best outdoor player I've ever seen.
There you go. Love it. I love it. Okay, controversial question. We got 2 more before you. Very Canadian based. How do you feel, or did you feel, about ketchup on macaroni?
I'm not a big ketchup guy.
No.
But,
sodium. Just don't like it.
A little bit more mustard.
Okay.
More mustard. I don't put ketchup on my hamburger.
Oh.
I don't put tomatoes on my hamburger.
Okay.
But I like tomatoes.
Yeah.
Ketchup on macaroni might be a little bit. Yes.
Yeah.
The only time I use ketchup is on French fries, and I don't eat French fries very often, but that's the only time I use ketchup.
There you go. I mean, you're getting some good European, like some good German sauce. Like, there's no need for ketchup on anything. It may be a little mustard on the side, right? Like, you don't need any of that.
No, the German sausage with mustard.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Awesome. This has been super fun, and I appreciate you taking the time. Now, the last question we always ask is, who's out there? Like JD Jackson mentioned you, and he reeled off your resume on our show and talked about you being sort of one of the greatest kind of, I don't want to say unknown, but I think a lot of people maybe have, I don't want to say forgotten either, but just sort of until the FIBA, I think it was really great because people were like, oh yeah, that's Gordie Herbert, the Canadian. Like, and I think it's been great to see your name sort of be back out there because your story is rich and it's great, and you've accomplished so many amazing things. So on top of your head, who's out there that has a good story, but you're the connection. So you've got to help us get them on the podcast here. So don't throw someone under the bus who's like, what are you doing, man? I'm not going on that show with that bald-headed guy. Like, who's out there that's got a good story that you think would be a fun guest to have?
I'll give you 2 names.
Okay.
David Blatt, good friend of mine.
Oh, yes.
He just had a pretty interesting thing on Eurohoops about the conflict in Israel.
Okay.
One of the best coaches ever in Europe.
Yes.
got a bad deal in the NBA.
Yes. That would be fun to dive into.
Yeah, I mean, just a great person. Obviously, he's going through a tough time health-wise right now.
Okay.
But unbelievable. One of the best coaches ever in Europe.
Yep.
He should have been a long time in the NBA. I'm a little bit surprised there aren't many European coaches in the NBA. I'm just my take on it. But I think just the style of the European coaches is different. People don't think they could change or manage. I think they can. I had this talk with Darko the other day. The other person that might be interesting is Marko Pesic. His dad is Svetislav Pesic, one of the Yugoslavian coach, won many EuroLeague championships, one of the greatest coaches of all time in Europe. 70 years still coaching. Marko is GM of Munich in the EuroLeague, former national team player. Really good around German basketball.
Nice.
So those are the two that kind of might give you a little different perspective as far as outside of Canada.
Yeah. No, I love that. No, I loved even just what you shared a little bit in your experience with the club system in Europe too is awesome. So yeah, all right. That sounds fantastic. I love it.
But David Blatt was with Canada now.
Yeah, absolutely.
I tried to get him to come with me to Germany, but I tried to get Peter Jensen to come too. But
hey, man, listen, you can't be stealing everyone. Come on now.
No, I didn't take any. I didn't take any Canadians.
I'm messing around.
I didn't. I think. I mean, Basketball Canada did a huge thing getting David involved in that program. Just with his FIBA experience and NBA experience and that. I mean, Gordie did a really good job, I thought, with Canada too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I agree. He got a bit of a raw deal with his NBA run there. It wasn't really that fair, so that'd be great. He'd be a fun guy to connect with. Now, before we let you go ahead. You got something to say?
No, I think Gordie will be a coach in the NBA sooner than later. Yeah, and I hope Kenny Atkinson gets back. He's a friend of mine.
Oh, yeah.
Hopefully he gets back. And he was my assistant coach in France for 2 or 3 years.
Nice. That's awesome.
So
love it. Yeah, I was just down, and last night I was at the Jazz Clippers game. So hung out with Scott Morrison and kind of got to see the NBA side of things again. And so that was cool. And I think it's great to see so many great, like we had, 23 years since the 2000 Olympic team. And so we had chatted with some of the guys, and Jay was talking about, and he mentioned you as well, just sort of that Canadian coaching lineage that's starting to happen, and it has been happening, and it's great. We've got so many good young coaches and people like yourself that have just been involved in the game for so long, and I think we need to continue to highlight them more.
I agree 100%. I mean, I talked to Scott this summer about joining our staff, but I was waiting on the German guy, and he decided to come. But I just think there's so many really good Canadian coaches, and we're looking elsewhere too much. That's my opinion. I mean, there's really good Canadian coaches, and I think we got to start building up these Canadian coaches.
I agree.
I mean, Jay's had a really good career in the NBA. In my opinion, one of the best NBA assistant coaches in the NBA. I mean, his personality is perfect.
Yep.
And I just think, Jama now with Toronto could be an NBA coach soon.
Yep.
There should be more Canadians. You'd hope there'd be more Canadians on the Raptor staff, put it that way too. But
there you go. I hear you.
But yeah,
it's good. Well, and
I think what the Yugoslavian community does so well is they really bring their coaches up. They get them jobs. They promote them. They get them into good situations.
Right. As opposed to leaving them to grind on their own kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think in Canada, that's something we could do a lot better of.
I agree. Sort of help pave their path with them, as opposed to being like, we'll call you when we need you kind of thing. Hey, is that kind of what you? Yeah. Yeah.
Right. I mean, there's opportunities there to, create those opportunities. And, I talked to Kevin Hansen about this the other day too. Same thing.
Yeah.
There's, we have a lot of great coaches in Canada, and a lot of people don't know about them.
Yeah, it's true. Well, I can say on behalf of Hoops Journey, we're trying to do our best to share those people's stories, and you're one of them. A little longer in the tooth than some of the young guys we're talking about, but someone who's got, a ton of experience, a great story, and just a nice, gentle, great guy. And congratulations on all your success. I know we talked briefly at the Raptors practice there, and you were talking about how you're going to fill your time once you get back to Europe, but you'll mull it over a cold plunge and a nice fire, and you'll figure it out as you always have. Any last thoughts or reflections before we let you go?
Good night for hockey tonight. Toronto, Montreal, Vancouver, Edmonton.
Now, is your mom okay with this? Like, is she okay, or is there 2 TVs in the place, or what?
I had to watch Gunsmoke last night, so I
to make up for tonight. Yeah.
Tonight, I told her we're not watching Gunsmoke anymore. Actually, one of the best shows in Canada is Family Feud.
Yeah.
That guy, the head guy there, does a great job. I like watching him. I mean,
I love it. I love it.
But as much as I like the Raptors, I hate the Maple Leafs. I grew up. It's
Amen to that.
It's funny in Canada how we all, we got 7 NHL teams, I think, and we grow up hating or loving some team.
And I'm not one of these, like, I don't know about you. If the Canucks are out, I'm not cheering for Calgary because they're Canadian. Like, that's just not. I'm not rolling that way. There's no way. Like, I almost don't want them to win, because they are Canadian. Like, it's just not how I roll. I don't know what your thoughts. If the Canucks aren't in it, forget about it.
No, I'm with the Canucks. I also like Edmonton a little bit. Just, I like the way they play.
Yeah.
And Leon Draisaitl has texted me a few times about,
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So that was pretty nice. I mean, we have the same physical coach with the national team as his coach back in Germany. So.
Oh, cool.
That was kind of nice. And
that's awesome.
So pretty good guy.
Yeah. Well, listen.
I don't know McDavid, but I'm sure
seems like a great guy too.
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, I think most of these Canadian hockey players are really down to earth.
Yeah.
Haven't been spoiled by the system yet. Put it that way.
For sure. There he goes. And we'll leave it on that. Now, listen. You get your feet up and enjoy the evening watching some hockey tonight. I mean, what a crazy kind of couple months and whirlwind it's been for you. So you enjoy that downtime because the chaos will come. And as we push closer to the the Olympics coming up, there'll be lots of people in our country that'll be pulling for you, and we'll be super happy to see and hope your team has lots of success. So all the best to you. Keep in touch, and thanks for being with us. This was fun and an absolute pleasure and an honor.
Thank you. As long as we beat Canada next summer, we'll be good. We actually had 2 good games with them last.
You did, yeah.
2 really good games, and so I mean, hopefully we'll play them again in the exhibition before the Olympics.
You got it, and there you've heard it here. The Canadian is. Well, I mean, hey, you gotta do what's feeding you. What are we gonna say, right?
No, I was really happy for Canada. I mean, I've known Rowan Barrett for a long time. I was really happy for him.
Yeah.
Especially after us not qualifying for the Olympics before. It was great for Basketball Canada, and it was great that these guys, Kelly Olynyk and Powell and Shea Alexander, and these guys all come out and play now. I think it's great for basketball in Canada.
I agree. We'll leave it on that note. Thank you so much. Absolute legend in the game. Continued success. Thanks to all our sponsors, and we'll see you on the next episode.